Welcome, empty beers. Ow.
Yo, yo, yo. Oh, God. Welcome, everybody, to episode 2 of Vital MTB's podcast show, Bikes Unaffiliated. Hold on, my dog's... He just ate his food. He's starting to whine and play with his toy. Yo, go chill for 2 seconds. Zeus, go lay down. Our dog gets food zoomies. He gets poop zoomies and food zoomies.
How do you know which is which?
Yeah, usually they coincide pretty heavily, actually. So
You ever get both zoomies at once?
usually not. Usually it's eats food, and if he's got to poop, he's like, yo, let me out right now. Okay, attempt number 2. Here we go. Welcome back, everybody, to episode 2 of Vital MTB's new podcast show, Bikes Unaffiliated. This is our spot to chat about bike-related topics that aren't necessarily focused on current events, racing, interviews, or product reviews. I'm Jason Schroeder, joined again by Sean Spomer and Lars Sternberg, and today the topic is, with mountain bikes becoming so darn good, it makes more sense than ever to own one for multiple seasons and make component changes or upgrades as needed. So how long should bike parts and other consumable products needed to ride last? How are you guys? We'll get into it, but thank you for joining again.
Yeah.
Yeah, doing good over here. Stoked to have another show.
Sweet.
Yeah. No
Okay,
case of the Mondays.
Dude, I know. Yeah. We're doing this on Monday. This is going to come out before Friday. I'm putting that out there. It's on you, Spomer.
Yep, easy.
Okay, so last week and every week going forward, I wanted to do the like high key, low key, like good and bad from last week, have something fun to talk about, kind of massage that naming and didn't really like it. So we're going to go with what's in, what's out now, which we've had that on the site at the start of every year. We'll do what's in, what's out for 2023, 24, 25. They're pretty fun articles to put together. I would recommend going back and reading them. But so yeah, what's in, what's out from last week. I'll go first because I'm talking already. I'm doing music. I was listening to a lot of new music lately. So I've got 2 bands for people to go check out. One is called Truth Club. The other one is a country western. I'm super bad at like categorizing music, but they're similar. They're like modern indie alt kind of rock, just rock, you know. It's like proven that there's still bands out there that play instruments and it's not just sad rap and shit. But they're kind of similar to like Modest Mouse, Pinback, or Pavement. If you guys ever listen to those bands.
Pavement, sweet. Cut your hair.
Yeah. There you go. Shout out to my homie Gloosh who put me on to those bands.
Nice.
And then
is one of the band name is called A Country Western?
It's a pretty good name.
Old guy trying to figure out how it all works. So.
Yeah. Truth Club and a country western, 2 separate bands. And then my what's out, which is super hypocritical because I'm sharing music I like, was everybody sharing their Spotify Wrapped last week, which I like seeing what people listen to, but it kind of feels like an attention thing a little bit. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a hater after like tapping through like the 30th thing of what people are listening to. Oh, I had a note too, is everybody... That's right. This year they had your listening age.
Oh, yeah.
And it felt like everybody's wanted to flex like either how old they were or how young and hip they were. I'm just like, I don't care. So that's my what's out.
Yeah.
Do you think that anybody would do that if they hadn't already seen somebody do that? Like post it on social media?
Yeah, like without seeing.
Who's the first person that was like
somebody at midnight wherever Spotify turned it on, you know. So my favorite ones are friends that have kids. Like my best friend Seth, his top song was the Home Depot theme song. Amazing.
That's incredible.
Where for me it's like almost all lo-fi and slow jazz because I can't work listening to music that has any talking or singing in it. So it's all just like boring ass music, and then my Spotify's jacked. But yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, my wife's listening age was 28, and so she was super hyped.
Yeah.
So what's it like for you though? Like for younger crew, do they want to have an older age?
I feel like a lot of friends around my age, like 30-ish, are all bragging about like my listening age was like 75. Like I know good old music.
Like classic rock or something.
You're just in the country last year, you know, like that's all that happened.
Hank Williams is cool.
Yeah, right. Where I mean, Lauren and I both our listening age were like mid 20s. but it's probably just because I listen to bands that are newer, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Did anyone's list stick out to you? Was there anywhere you're like, oh, that's pretty cool?
Nah, not really.
No, you just glossed it. I forget it.
Yeah, because it's
kind
so
of an interesting way to like to find new music is by looking at other people's. I used to back when I used Spotify, Sam from Transition also like used to have a super detailed like Spotify library, and you could actually listen to another person's library.
Yeah.
So like I would always just play Sam's playlist and let him do the work of like finding all the music and stuff. That was just like my everyday listen was like, oh, I'm just listening to Sam's music.
Yeah, finding music can be tough. I'm the same way. I'll go through like months where I'm just kind of burned out on stuff, and then I'll find a friend that's way more into music and be like, hey, send me like 10 bands that you're into right now.
Right.
And then with like radios on Spotify, it's a good way to find other bands. I never do the like explore or whatever they call it, where you search out new bands. It just always is all over the place.
It's all AI bands now.
Yeah.
But didn't they say like the #1 band was AI or something like that?
Oh God, I do remember seeing something like that.
Yeah, sorry to derail.
According to Rogan.
Yeah.
All right, you guys are up.
Go, Lars.
In or out? I'm not sure. Netflix, Warner Brother, Disney. I don't know how I feel about that. Who knows? Kind of indifferent. It'll be interesting to see.
That's like a what's up? Like, what's up with that?
Yeah, what's up? What's up with that? I'm going to take lead for my in. I'm going to follow up on Spomer's out last week, which was winter. I'm going to say in winter because I kind of hit the pain threshold this weekend. Went for a really wet gravel ride on Saturday, which required like an hour search through my bike gear of finding like the Lycra stuff and like the all-weather Lycra stuff. And it kind of pushed me past the point of like, once you like dive in, like it's so much, there's so much apprehension to go out when the weather is terrible. But once you're in it, it's fine. You know, and that kind of put me past the point of like, okay, cool. I've got my process out, all the cleanup and everything. And then out for me, headset cups, which I'll get into, and getting hurt and the recovery process and the fear associated with it. And that's near and dear to my heart because I'm going through that a bit right now. Like went on a pretty aggressive bike ride yesterday to like the scarier part of Bellingham trails. Conditions were gnarly and I was with a Get After It crew and I was like, I remember the climb up. I was like, oh man, like, I don't know, because I'm recovering from years of injuries right now and still dealing with that. And I think anybody that gets hurt has to go through that. It's just human nature. So interesting to go through that and acknowledge it and the fear and all of that associated with it. And I'm over it. So that's out.
I'm over like getting rowdy and getting hurt.
No, just
or dealing with the fear of
dealing with fear
and
and riding, approaching riding in such a way that I'm not that I'm not doing it, but I'm over it. Riding with the fear of getting hurt again. I think it's just a natural thing people deal with. But,
yeah, that is real. I feel like I've been feeling that lately as I've been like feeling good on the bike, which then means you ride faster and then you get closer to that limit. And then I'm like, I don't have a reason, like I once said when I race, to chase that limit, but it still is exhilarating. But now it's the payoff isn't really there. Like I've been doing that lately on rides where I'm like, I'm going to back it down and be more creative than just trying to go like balls to the wall every lap, you know, and takes the edge off. And at least for me, it does. But yeah, because getting hurt's always there. It's in the back of everyone's head, I feel like, no matter how hard you fight it.
Yeah.
It's very real.
Yeah. Cool. All right. My what's in is the community response on Vital, the response to me saying we're going to lock out Tech Rumors thread and kind of change up the system. No, I'm dead serious. The response has been super cool. Thank you for your responses. I don't know. It's just rad to see how much people care in there. Tom Shar video on Thrasher, big vert video. If you haven't watched that, I made sure Jason didn't steal it for his this week. That's insane.
Is that the one where he did the aired into the grinded on the coping and then like kick flipped in. I saw a little clip of that.
Yeah, he does all kinds
Yeah.
of insane stuff. It's just bonkers, just the size and the scale for
so
and
neat.
whether you skateboard or not. Yeah. So
Right. No, it's
yeah, I don't know. Waiting for Jocelyn's video has to come out, and he had the El Toro cover and all that. So we'll see.
That's
I kind of
right.
feel like it's going to be his, but we'll
Has
see.
that clip come out yet?
I don't know, because watching Street League, they mentioned that he had the cover, but I haven't seen anything yet, but we'll see. But they said he made it. So yeah. Anyway, the Juice Man video, the raw thing that Lawler did, if you haven't watched it, it went up this weekend on the site. That kid's crazy. He's so gnarly. And just seeing kids like him out there, kind of like what I said last week, the sort of younger crew that's just out there riding and having fun is super awesome.
Thrasher mentality.
Yeah. Sure seems like it, like doesn't seem like he cares about bike tech all that much, but he sure shreds bike and looks good. He doesn't care what he's riding. So, the DMR 30 Years of Dirt video was super cool because it had all this footage from Sprung with all those dudes. Is it Jimmy Pratt? Is that his name? And like Neil Donahue. And they're all just young and just hitting trails in the backyard. I remember those days and how, I don't know, like how inspirational they were. So I've got a lot of them going through all these videos. I was getting German pre-rolls on YouTube, so that was pretty funny. Just a waste of paying for ads on YouTube. I don't even know if that's worth it. Anything that Torment Mag, the snowboard mag, puts out, all their street snowboard videos are sick. One thing I forgot to mention last week was we did a follow-up podcast with Colin Marr, the photographer, mountain bike photographer, and he's battling with ALS right now. And I interviewed him, I think it was 7 years ago, kind of when it was sort of newly diagnosed. And we followed up with him, and it's really gotten to him. But we had, he was on watching, but I was hosting, and then 6 of his buddies were in Seattle because they always got together, to hang out with Colin. And so we basically, like, Colin wrote all his answers out because he can't speak right now. Like the ALS has gotten that far. So Patrick Zust, he's on the site. I read the questions. Patrick read Colin's answers, which are amazing. And then all the buddies just kind of hung out and roasted him for an hour. So it was super cool. So that'll be coming out soon, but that was a highlight last week, and it kind of still is. So
dang, that's sick. I'm looking forward to that.
Yep. I got another good day on the rut track. Rain came, that was sunny. And then my what's out is probably all this Rogan crap, but there's this podcast called Diary of a CEO. It's kind of famous or like popular on YouTube.
I heard about that.
Okay. But he interviewed an ex-Google employee named Tristan Harris, and they talked about AI in the future and how like society's completely smoked and nuked and all that. And I just listened to a small clip. I'm like, oh man. So that bummed me out. So that's down. Like, no more AI talk. I'm done with it. So
AI, it's out. You heard it here first.
Yep. So that's it.
I like it. I like I like bringing the multiple videos per week because like when I built out the first article on the site, I kind of just like dropped some links down below of what we talked about. And then I was like, you know what, this could turn into like a cool article that's a podcast, but more just like a random Monday or Tuesday thing where you scroll through just random shit.
Yeah.
So, and we got a good mixture this week as well. So
for sure.
It's kind of like sharing your Spotify playlist.
It totally is. Here's what I watched today. Am I cool?
Yeah.
Oh God, just kidding. It's going to be just a link to the podcast on site now. I love the hypocrisy of stuff like that where, I don't know, maybe it's just like the hater of like being a mountain biker, or maybe growing up in like skate surf more, where it's like what you're doing you think is cool, and then you have to talk shit on what other people are doing, but like none of it matters, which is really entertaining.
Yeah.
All right, we'll finally get into this conversation that people clicked on to listen to 15 minutes ago. This all came about, this topic, when I put on new flat pedal shoes, because I run flats. I run Fox's flat shoes, and put those on during Crankworks week. And then like probably a month ago now, I was going to put them on again. I'm like, dude, these things are pretty haggard. Like the bottom has pin marks where it's just all worn out. And there's like some different seams that are splitting. And like I've ridden in them a lot, but I'm like, man, I'm on like 2 pairs of shoes a year. And I guess that's normal because that's just what it is. And then it sparked into this idea of like, your mountain bike's pretty good right now. Like I think most of my friends keep their bike for a couple seasons. Like Geo's pretty established. You can rebuild things. Like things just hold up a lot longer. And so I thought it'd be cool to chat about, how do we get here? Where are we going? What needs to improve? And I thought it'd be fun to kick it off with the question of just like looking back, what are some like good horror stories with past products or parts and just things like not lasting a long time?
I chucked in to our notes, tires, tubes, tubeless technology, rims, that whole
Definitely.
interface. It's really nice to not have to worry. I mean, we all still get flat tires, but the whole tubeless struggle is
Mhm.
gone. I remember being at races and like frantically trying to change tires and like without a compressor trying to get
Yeah.
a tire to seat.
Mhm.
And I remember going to Sea Otter 2011. Jill and Brandon and I were down there for the original Transition Factory Racing program, and we were sponsored by Maxxis, and we had been given, it might have been prototype at that point, but the first EXO tires. It was like
Mm.
DHF EXO tires before anything was tubeless.
Hmm.
And I remember going on a ride here, and I had a set of those tires mounted up tubeless. I might not have even had sealant in the rim at that point,
No way.
on a set of like Crank Brothers iodine or opium wheels or something.
Yeah, the Crank Brothers transition days. I remember that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
and
iconic.
totally. And I went off this drop that my friend Brad had done. We were on a big bike ride, and it is pretty gnarly. It's like maybe 15 feet vertical or something. Anyway, I went off, got a little off balance, and I landed fine, but my wheel was turned and the front tire just came off the front wheel, like full explosion, and tomahawked. It took us 5 minutes to find my shoe. Seriously. Seriously, we had a tube in the wheel, bike was back together, and somebody's over in the woods like, I found your shoe. So I don't miss those days for sure.
Yeah,
That was-
dude, that was one for kind of like what things are just so much better than they once were. That was the first thing that came to mind is like, I don't really dick around with tubeless setup as much. Like I'm definitely running thicker casing tires in general, which helps. But like, do we even need to put tubeless ready on the side of tires anymore? Like it's kind
Yeah,
of a
right.
given, like there was that whole era of just like all of the witchcraft involved with getting a tire to hold air. It felt like I didn't start running tubeless tires until Monson and 2015. I had tubes in and I kept flatting in practice and was like afraid of this tubeless thing I had heard about. And like all I'd ever seen is just sealant everywhere. I was like, I don't get it. I'm like, my tube doesn't really leak. It kind of feels fine. And like, I just run really thick ones and I don't flat that. I run 35 PSI. What could go wrong? Yeah.
What are you going to get better traction out of not having an overinflated tube in my tire?
Yeah, exactly. That is definitely a core one. What do I even have written down? I have just pivots coming loose. Like it seemed like for years every bike I owned had one pivot that needed a 6 mil or a 5 mil turned like 3 or 4 times per ride. Like I always had
Per ride?
Yeah, like on a ride a few times.
Do you have Loctite?
This is pre-Loctite?
Yeah.
It's 1943.
We had blue or red or whatever the non-locking one was.
The blue,
dude, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, let's be
that's
honest,
just grease, right?
Yeah, what's that?
That's just grease.
Yeah. Just using assembly lube on everything.
Have you ever accidentally used the green stuff by mistake?
Oh, like the Loctite green stuff?
Is that permanent?
Yeah, the like locking compound. Yeah,
I haven't. Luckily, no. I mean, I don't know, dude. I don't know. I was thinking back, like I had a Giant Trance, I had a Commensal Meta, and my first gen Sentinel. I think it was the first gen one that was more swoopy. It was like the red wine color.
Yep.
The
Pinot Noir.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. The main lower pivot that has the little collet that was over it, I think, right?
Right. Yep.
Yeah, that one came loose all the time. And like, I don't know why. I did everything I could and I just I don't really have that issue anymore, it seems. I don't know. Maybe I don't test bikes for the months on end that requires things to get flexed, but like my Stumpy this year has been totally fine. Like, yeah, I don't know. Things maybe don't come loose as much as they once did, but wheels are the other one. Like I feel like I definitely was running alloy wheels more than I do now, but forever I always had like a spoke key on me and just seemed to like I could go out on a ride on like the trails I've ridden all the time and just blow up a wheel out of nowhere. And I'd be like just devastated because it'd be like, that's so much money and I don't have a spare. Or like running, I used to ride with like cracked wheels for like months because it was just like, didn't have the money to buy wheels and they just broke all the time. Where now like wheels are pretty dang good once you get into a certain level and they all have warranties now, which is crazy. So yeah, that was kind of my list.
Yeah. I'll piggyback on the shoe thing. Just that flat pedal shoes specifically. I don't ride clips either, but I understand you're taking soft rubber and grinding it against a really sharp metal pin. So what kind of life are you going to really be able to have out of it? But just the cost of the shoes is a lot of money now. So
Totally.
Just finding that balance, I guess, of grip or budget or how long you want them to last. Like, I don't know, a lot of things to consider.
There is something there though. When we were talking about this initially, Jason, the concept of the pod, and you brought up the shoe thing, and it made me think of this would have been like 2005. I was exclusively riding the first generation 510 Impact, the ones that were all black, low or high top, and it was like a cloth material, and they would break in and they would have the right amount of flex. But I had some of those pairs of shoes for years. And I remember going down to race the Valparaiso Cerro Bajo in Chile with Simon for many years in a row. And we would go down there and basically at the end of the trip, he would basically fund the trip by us selling all of our stuff at the end of the trip. And like I sold a pair of the 510s that I had for like 2 or 3 years. And was riding like every day at that point. And they were still worth buying.
Crazy. Yeah, like the super OG sticky rubber, huh?
Yep.
When I was at Decline, Lopes came through and gave me a pair of his Intense branded sticky rubber 510s, and I wore those for a while. But they also weighed like 500 pounds. Right. I remember them being super heavy. So I don't know if like that's part of why the rubber might be, more susceptible to, to decay now is because they're lighter. But yeah, it's just all trade-offs, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I have some notes where I have a question later on we could chat about right now, which is basically like, do brands want things to only last so long so that you buy more stuff? And when I think of that question, it goes to the like, okay, you don't want something to be super expensive. You don't want it to be super heavy. And then you need it to like last a reasonable amount of time. And like, those seem like the like bars that as one goes up, the other one drops. And you're kind of like trying to balance all those out.
What are the three magic pillars? It's like
cheap, light, strong.
Cheap, light, and strong.
Yeah, pick two.
Yeah.
So that's
back to the shoe thing really quick. Not to jump in there, but I am. Like think about like with the shoes and the compound and the weight and all those trade-offs. Think about tires, right? Like it's all additive material, right? And like you're not gonna go buy the hardest, longest lasting tires because you're like, well, I'm gonna get 2 years out of these because it's gonna suck. Right? You want the like most traction, the softest, gummiest, and you just kind of accept that they're gonna wear out because they're gonna be really good for their short lifespan.
Yeah.
I guess the same kind of thing could apply to shoes. Like, if you want that contact, they're not gonna last as long, I guess.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. Tires are a great one because they're almost more consumable, similar item. And it is one of those things like, depending on the brand, how long they should last gets pretty obscure, it seems. And that's something I've been kind of dealing with as I try to figure out if I should go with more mullet setups on my personal bikes, because it seems more popular right now, or more appropriate to test for Vital to give feedback for consumers looking at buying wheels. But then I got to have two sizes of tires. I got to have like a tube or two tubes on me now if I'm going to flat. And like forever, I always did the, like, you blow out a rear tire, your front becomes your rear, you get a new front tire. And like, or you get the compounds in the rear that last a lot longer. And I was trying to think back, like, tires to me have kind of always worn at a similar rate, but I would say the performance is considerably better than it once was, between holding tubeless, casing, feel, damping, all that good stuff. And just the tires, I will say casing seems like it holds up better than it once did. Like, it seems like tires used to have a lot shorter lifespan, not from like the knobs blowing off, but just the feel of the tire like giving up eventually and just getting all loose and like blown out. Yeah, tangent, I don't know. Tires.
That's good.
Have you ever had a bent tire?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure. I'm doing a Maxxis Conti front tire comparison that someday will come out maybe. And I thought my front wheel had like a little hop in it, which is odd for a carbon wheel. And then I took the Conti off and put the Maxxis on, and it was straight. I'm like, oh, that Conti had like a little wobble in it in one spot. It wasn't super drastic, but it was there. So I mean, it still happens for sure.
Is it because of how you put the tire on? Like, did you stretch it out? Because that's what I think people argued about this in the forum.
No.
Like, the tires can't be bent out of the mold because of how they work. You probably stretch it out when you put it on.
Dude, I'm not that strong. Come on. I'm using plastic tire levers.
You could definitely bend them from riding. Like,
yeah,
I
I've seen
remember
that.
riding with Luke. Like, I think that's one of the more fun things to say as a mountain biker is, I bent my tire.
Wow.
I've never done it, but I've seen friends that can hit corners really hard do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's wild.
I think the first person I heard say that was Luke Strobel.
That checks out.
That tracks, yeah.
Okay. I put into Chat GPT, how long does a mountain bike last?
No AI.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Yeah, don't listen to this question. And it said 5 to 20 plus years, which is great. You know, a lot of solid return on your investment. You're really getting some fun out of it. But I think that's exaggerated. But maybe nowadays you could buy a bike in 2021 and going into next year, it probably is still very relevant geo-wise and the way that the bike works, everything on it. And you've probably been able to keep it living its life if you're maintaining it and all of that. I would say if we went 20 years ago now or 20 years into the future, you're just going to want new parts. Like, your shit's going to be dated, you know?
Yeah.
I don't think that's super relatable, but I mean, what do you guys think if you bought a bike, say in the last couple of years or the next few years from now, how long do you think it should last? Like, what are our expectations on that?
I would think that 5 years would make sense for me, how I ride. Like, I'm just a lot more cruisy than anything these days. But I'm curious if you guys think if a frame would hold up for 5 years for how you guys ride. Because that seems like, I don't know. It seems like there could be some fatigue issues, and just like, even if you replace bearings, bottom brackets, like, does it just get fatigued beyond use with, how you guys are riding?
I think
I'm
a lot
talking
of it
frame
comes
only.
down,
If we're keeping up with all the components. Let's just talk frame.
riding at a high level where you're kind of like pushing the limits more often than not. I would say like one to 2 seasons, for a frame. Then you kind of get to that point where you've either like had a catastrophic issue, like you've Tommy hawked one too many times, your bike has actually like hit something, or it's just kind of like wallowed out. Because a frame definitely does kind of, I wouldn't say wear out, but like I've heard
Kinda
talk
stretches.
of like, yeah, totally. Like it becomes more malleable.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably 1 to 2 years, depending on, how much you're getting after. I don't know. What do you think, Jason?
I mean, definitely not a frame material expert. I'm sure that there's some actual stats on between carbon and alloy, like what happens over time and stuff. But I agree, like in time, to me, bikes kind of become looser feeling. Like they're really tight and snug when they're new, and then you can replace bearings a few times. You can do a rebuild and kind of recapture that feeling, but only so many times it seems. And I mean, I realized I just sold Lauren's 2021 Stump Jumper Evo, and it was in pieces because we parted it out to build her new bike. And going through that thing, I mean, it had seen probably like 2,000 miles, which is decent, I would say. And I had not really done that much to it. And it was in good shape. I sold it to somebody and they're going to get probably close to another 5 years out of it, honestly. Like, I think that it really will be okay with just normal riding, not super aggressive riding. Yeah, I don't like my notes to kind of like this concept of like, how would your bike actually last 20 years? I just think about the fact that I don't see anybody riding a 10-year-old bike hardly ever out on the trails, which kind of answers that to me. Like people are updating their bikes more frequently than that. And yeah, I think people just want the new thing, the next best thing. And not a lot of people are buying frames only and building a bike. Seems like buying complete bikes are more the ticket and the way to go. And so a lot of times if, you know, Lauren's bike as an example, it had like Kodar brakes, Axis, Eagle, so not transmission. Just those little details, like she wants Mavens. She wants like GX transmission now. Like you want the newer, better things because maybe as we'll probably get into, like things are getting so much better that durability is a component to that as well. Plus the weight and the other things we were kind of mentioning. So yeah, I'll be really curious in like 2035, are we going to see people rolling around on like a 2025 bike? It seems more likely than seeing people on a 2015 something or another right now, but maybe it'll be the exact same situation, you know?
Yeah, especially with, you know, how much wheel size standards changed in the last 15 years. That seems like that's kind of tapered off. You have 29, you have mullet, maybe 32 now. That geometry also is sort of tapered off. It seems like the developments in bike tech alone would make it more plausible that you'd see a 10-year-old bike on the trails.
Yeah, I also think the modern sizing has kind of like equalized quite a bit. You know, you think like 2017, 2018 to 2020, everything kind of became around, you know, a lot of bikes offered in the same size bracket were kind of all within a good ballpark. Pre that, you know, you think about riding a 2015 bike, that's for me, that would probably be the biggest thing is that if you ride a medium now, you effectively, if you're riding a medium from 10 years ago, you're going to be riding a size small.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Geo, that's what I kind of go to. I'm like, Geo's kind of settled and it's pretty sweet. There's probably a few things we could poke at, or on a different podcast, we should chat about things like that, like where it might be heading. But I don't think it'll be super drastic. Probably will eat some of my words, but it seems like things will, you know, we'll just be on 32-inch wheels and that'll basically be it. So if you're like under 5'4", you're just not going to ride mountain bikes.
But it is, it's a cool spot to be in because this question, and we could ask this question a couple of years ago and it's still, everything is so sort of sorted out that it's really going to come down to durability and reliability of the product itself.
Why do
I think a lot of it comes down to maintenance too.
Yeah.
A lot of aspects of the bike is like how willing you are to like make something last.
Does it feel like without really tearing yourself apart, things do just hold up longer than they once did? Like I think about brakes. I feel like I used to have to upkeep on bleeding my brakes more than I do now. Like I can basically run a bleed for like a whole year in a lot of cases. And even then when I go to bleed it, it's not like the darkest oils coming out. There's like a bunch of crap. And I'm not living in Bellingham. There's definitely like more weather to interact with, but it feels like it feels like enough things have been tried. If we're looking at components, like everything's honing in. We've honed in a lot on a lot of different categories to where we kind of know what works. I say we, brands, other people are smart engineers. They know what works. And the like small refinements get made, but things kind of seem like they don't maybe require nearly as much attention as like they maybe once did. Like things just kind of exist in the way that they're designed for a lot longer.
Yeah, like think about the times or the time when we went from dual front chainring to single chainring
Mm-hmm.
before any of the like narrow wide tech had come into play. You couldn't ride a single front chainring without a chain guide.
Yeah.
Like not even an option. And now it's just standard practice. And like, yeah, you can go, you're reducing the complexity of the whole system itself,
Mm-hmm.
so you have less maintenance. You could just run like your drivetrain, for years for
Yeah.
sure until the teeth are worn out. But
Just kind of tried a lot, and now we've figured out what sort of works. And if you get a newer current bike that kind of checks a lot of the boxes for like modern standards, there's not nearly as much to mess with. And like,
Yeah.
sort of in like I frame tolerances is kind of one that I do think about a bit, and maybe like bearing size is another one. If we're getting in, let's say getting in now to like what needs to evolve or change still, or maybe has room from a durability standpoint to be better. I would say that's one for me. Maybe not frame tolerances in general. I think I feel like I get more bikes nowadays that are well aligned, like things aren't binding or fighting themselves. Um, Bearings are really tiny, like maybe too tiny. That probably goes back to the whole cost weight comparison. But I would be cool with things being strong, bearings being stronger, pivots being burlier and lasting longer. I think that's probably like that plus fork compliance and bushing tolerances. That's one that the best example I have is when we did downhill bike testing this summer. I think we had 3 Fox 40s, and I had them all set up differently because they all felt different, like different air pressure, different tokens in the fork, different compression settings to get them feeling similarly. And I was
on
like,
different bikes.
they were on different bikes, yeah. But like pretty drastically, like 5 to 10 psi different, not like a click here or there, like a psi here or there. And I've noted, I've had that with like a Fox 38 that'll come on quite a few bikes, and I like don't really even really write down my like base setting for that fork anymore because it can kind of be all over the place a little bit. I have less variance with RockShox forks, and those forks right now to me feel like they're binding less in general. But if I think about when I go out and ride, so much of my bike is kind of sorted out and it feels pretty good. How I interpret the trail and what I feel really comes down to like my front wheel, my front tire, and my fork. Like that's what's coming. I'm hitting things first with those, and then the feedback is coming into my arms. And a lot of times, like my wheel's pretty normal, and my tire pressure and tire casing is what I prefer. It's just the fork at that point, and like, it feels like it can be all over the place, and that would have a huge impact on furthering like performance and experience riding for me. Yeah,
Well, a fork is a complex
totally.
piece of machinery, and you introduce manufacturing tolerances, and they are all independent beasts of one another, like pretty close ballpark, but definitely when you're getting down to the level of like knowing the difference between a click or two here or there, yeah, you're gonna one fork to another, for sure. I think that's just kind of normal, for
Yeah.
them to not feel identical.
hmm And it's like I agree and understand that. And most people aren't going to have the opportunity to ride 2 to 3 forks, right, in the same weekend. But if you bought your fork for, what's a fork retail for? It's like 12 to
1,200
1400
bucks.
bucks, somewhere around there. and you get the bad one out of that bunch, but you don't really know it. You just think that's how it's supposed to feel, and then you like feel your buddies or something, and you're like, my fork doesn't really feel like that. Like I don't know, it kind of just is like a bummer, I guess. Is like when I'm sure that if they were to make a fork where it like there's no chance of it binding, no matter how many forces it's hitting, it probably would suck in other ways. It would be really heavy. Maybe it would be a lot more expensive, and so. But at the same time, there's things 10 years ago that we probably said the same thing about that we've now figured out. And so
Yeah.
that would be my hope with like forks in general, because I do think the ability to set up a fork is a lot better than it once was. Like when I first started riding, you didn't have a lot of adjustments, and the adjustments maybe didn't always do much. So you kind of lived within like a small little range, and then you just accepted that and you worked with it. Where now you can like really, I mean, it's pretty impressive with just like the dampers that are out there, what you can create and like the feeling you can go for. But at the end of the day, if it's like the fork's fighting itself to just go up and down, it's like a little bit of a losing battle sometimes.
Well, there's a lot more information out there now readily available
Totally.
via the internet, which is cool. And a lot of people that are willing to take the time to put tutorials out and that sort of thing, which is cool. To the fork point, and to the point of this pod, I do recall I was a part of the Fox Rad program in the early 2000s, early mid 2000s, and I remember going to that. So that fork damper architecture had the internal bladder at the top of the damper body inside the fork. So you would pull the damper out, and there was like basically like an inner tube, and it like expanded and contracted under compression. And I went to Deer Valley for, I think it was still a Norba then, and had been working closely with the Fox team. And at some point, very early on in practice, I didn't know what it was, but I was like, man, my fork feels weird. Like it does not feel like it's working like it should. And just kind of like, I had no way to get it fixed. So I was like, I just got, out of sight, out of mind. And I ended up fully cratering myself. And I don't think it was the fork's fault, but I think it was because I was thinking about it. And what it turned out is that the bladder, it would get to the point where it would expand so much that it would do what they call expunge. So the bladder would just like, it would basically, you bend your bladder. Right. And so like it didn't have the amount of containment that it should. And it would like create way more friction in the system.
Crazy.
And that was just kind of common. Those sorts of things were commonplace back then, and I remember talking to Fitzy right away, like probably at the bottom of the first run where I noticed it, being like, Fitz, my fork feels like crap. What do I do? And that, I guess there's that aspect of technology of a bicycle component that is changed, figured out that type of system is probably not good for mass consumption.
Yeah. What do you guys think though? Like fork technology has been around for a long time, and essentially it's kind of always stayed relatively the same, right? Like why does it have to be more complex or evolving than like one of the simpler systems? Is it because people want adjustability? Is it because they're trying to figure out like marketing to some degree, that you can do X, Y, or Z with your fork? You can have it feel a specific way through all the different ranges. It seems like that's the thing it's just always evolving with mountain bikes. And there have been good forks 10 years ago, haven't there? And is it placebo to be like, oh, the new one's better? And maybe that's just physical dimensions as opposed to like the guts. But it seems like something like that should be settled on and everyone should be happy, even though I know it's not going to be that way. And there's always, a race to progress. But I don't know. The suspension stuff is always really fascinating to me because of how much it seems to change. And then if something comes out, you definitely hear like, oh, they tried that 20 years ago, or, it's the same as X, Y, or Z product from whenever. But could it be just simpler and more reliable and feel better for everyone?
I think that you have two, as a broad generalism, you have two types of people. You have one type of person that's like, I just want it to work. I don't want to have to think about it. And then you have the other side, which is I want to be able to tinker with it. I want to play with it. You know, they're willing to dive in and make the adjustments for different situations. And then also you have a massive variance of types of riders and rider sizes
Yeah.
and weights to account for, right? And to sell a bike with X product on it, it has to work for somebody that's 5 foot and 100 pounds and somebody that's 6'6" and 300 pounds, or, you know,
Yeah.
or even farther on either extreme, you know,
Yeah.
and it's the same product, especially from a fork, because we do have like fork tunes now, but that's not super common. But the same product goes on a bike for any, and then also you introduce skill level to that. It has to fit a broad audience.
Yeah, I think that's a fair one. I think too, a fork is so dynamic, and because people are of different sizes and have different preferences and different abilities, it seems like an easy one to have a lot of discussion around. Like I have friends that swear by certain forks only, and and it's kind of like stick with that. Like if you think that works for you, because it probably isn't that much different than what if you just take Fox RockShox. If someone's like, I'm a RockShox person, like the Fox alternative is not that much different really, or you probably can get a very similar feel if that's like the thing. But if you just think that's what's best for you, I think maybe that's half or all of the battle. It's just believing on what you're on is good. But yeah, it seems like we're getting with like maybe like what you're talking about, Spomer, of just a fork that you get and you ride and it works, and like we've done it. We made a fork that just works well and it's simple. Like it seems like we have less adjustments maybe than we once did. Like RockShox has gone to not nearly as many clicks. Fox is down a little bit on clicks, and they've been pushing really heavy that each click does something. Like, and at each end of the spectrum is rideable, where before like that was not the reality. And that seems hard for me, because going back, like if you have very drastically different size riders, that seems like you got to make like pretty broad like range of rebound and range of compression to kind of accommodate everybody. But yeah, I think we maybe will always be talking about suspension products because there is so much involved, and I do think they're better than they once were, though. Not to say I don't think they're good. Like I've talked about it in a few different areas this year. Like I've ridden the Lyric a lot this year, and I've been like really impressed with that fork. I keep coming back to it as like a baseline to compare other things to, because I've enjoyed it so much. And it's probably filled with gunk at this point and like needs some love. And I'm like, that's fine. It feels kind of the same as it did a month ago, you know? And that's pretty cool. Like I remember when I mean, almost a decade ago now, when I was running boxers and racing, I mean, I was more particular about the feel of my suspension, but I would do a lower service like every other race, because it would just like get gross and start to like bind feeling and just not feel plush, you know? Like things required that so much more with forks, at least.
Do you think there's an aspect of you being a little bit more in tune with your setup when you were racing, and you know, that those like micro changes, you were like, oh, it needs a service, or like, I need to have fresh oil in my fork at every race, you know?
I think it kind of went both ways, where I was a lot more sensitive because I was riding the same bike all year and knew the like small window that how I wanted it to feel. But maybe like the counter to that is that I just like landed on where I wanted it to feel, and then I didn't really play around with stuff. Or it also, at the time, it was like I remember I got that's when Loic was working at 100% for a winter. I remember him and Jack were in town, and Jack, this was when they were coming off of LaPierre, and I think that maybe they still were on RockShox when they went to Specialized. I don't remember, but he had an extra fork with like a damper he had built, and he literally was like, you run the compression 6 out, you run the rebound this many clicks out, and like that's it. Don't ever change it. Like, that's just what you have to run it at. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll just run it at that. And like, I just believed that that was the best way. Or I think it was like 85 PSI or 86 PSI. Just run it at that always. And it's fine. Where like now when I'm especially, I feel like I know a lot more about suspension setup, just working at Vital and having to understand it better and having to be able to like, if I'm going to say this bike doesn't feel great, I need to have like tried all the things to understand why it doesn't and when it doesn't feel good. So yeah, it was a weird balance then. Like I was hypersensitive to landing on like an exact setup I wanted, where now I'm like more aware of like the broader spectrum of like what does what and how to like get to a setup that feels good. And like, I feel more comfortable giving people minor advice if they have questions about, you know, their setup and trying to like make it feel better. Which like we rode yesterday and my dad has a Levo and he's probably 210 pounds and like trying to get his fork to feel good. And then like one of our other friends who she's lighter and like rides in a different style and stuff and just trying to like land at those setups with both on a Fox 36, you know, it's like just, yeah, I don't know what I'm trying to say with all that. Like it is just really broad with all of that. Like, I don't know how, to me, it just it's going back to like both those forks and feel way different. And even though you have all those range and adjustment to try to get them to feel good, there's still some range to land at a setup or land at a fork that feels better out of the box, regardless of like the adjustments to make it good for that individual rider.
Yeah.
Long-winded.
Yeah. And I didn't take into consideration
What is my
like Lars, to your point, the idea of the skill levels in riders. Cause basically I could go buy a bike off the showroom floor. It'd be the same bike that's competing at professional, if not elite level. But I'm not going to ride like that. The equipment has to hold up to people at that level, but also make sure it's something I can do. So it's crazy to think that like I can't go buy a NASCAR. Like I don't even have access to stuff that good, but any person that wants to ride a mountain bike has access to more or less like World Cup level equipment, you know? So that's got to be tough for the brands to figure out. So.
Yeah. Also makes it really easy to get lost as a customer.
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot of work with like my own clientele right now. That's like one of the most common themes is people just not understanding like what the compression actually does and controls. And having had the background that I have of like the very minute details of every aspect of it and approaching it and trying to translate it in a way that's just like a very broad and easily understood and digestible terminology and like visually, you know, like the difference between high and low speed compression, for example, you know, and why you would want to like add or remove either one of those things for a different situation. That's been, so I guess to the counter of like having the adjustment is cool. It's also really easy to get lost in there, you know, especially if you have 4-way adjustment. It's like so easy to get out of line.
Yep.
Dude. Yeah. I get lost still.
Sure.
All the time. The amount of times I'm like, let me just put everything back in the middle. And
can you imagine how boring the forums
over.
would be if we didn't have all this stuff?
Right? Well, luckily everybody in the forums knows everything about suspension and their bikes are set up perfectly. So they're doing just fine.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, honestly, that's kind of the funny thing is like differentiating what's right and what feels good to you.
Yes.
You know, like if your bike feels good or your setup feels good, there's no right or wrong. Like if it feels good, it's going to make you feel confident and you're going to ride to the best of your ability. You know, I think that's really what it comes down to is like, does it feel right or wrong?
Yeah, for sure. Totally.
I don't know where you want to go, Jason, but we were talking a little bit before. Do you guys think that because of the entry of e-bikes into the situation that stuff is more durable? Like it seems like transmission's a direct result of an e-bike, right? And I don't know, just kind of the weight and the abuse that those things are going to put on components that land on regular mountain bikes. You think that's making things stronger in the long run, if not heavier?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe you have more insight into that, Lars, from developing e-bikes and
Yeah.
like what you spec on it.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely pushing the limits. I think it's all a trickle down. Like the limits that are being pushed with e-bikes in general are definitely providing some trickle down technology construction approaches to like frames, for example. Um, all of that. So that's pretty cool. I do have a little bit of a diatribe here because this is 100% related. The only e-bikes that I've ridden have had oversized head tubes and headsets. So be like 56 mil upper and then what is it, 65 mil lower?
Oh, like the bigger one.
The bigger
Is that
one.
like the 1.8? Yeah.
1.8 effectively. And I have not experienced issues with headsets like I have with, I think as you go bigger, it's more fragile in general. Like so many more issues with headsets. And then more recently, I had another headset explode yesterday, like in the
You're on a
exact
roll.
same way, which is crazy. So just
Really?
a quick recap. A couple weeks ago, I was riding with a client, just riding, and like all of a sudden I was like, man, my steering is like really tight. And so I like started to fiddle with my headset and I could not get it to have no friction or be loose. And I was on my e-bike and I was like, okay, fine. I'm just gonna like keep working. I don't need to spend time on that right now. And then I got it tight, went for a ride, and then it like broke. Like the upper headset separated from the flange, basically.
Crazy.
So I was like, oh, that's really weird. And there was nothing else wrong. It wasn't like my headset was loose or whatever. I was like, I've never seen that before. Aluminum headset cup. So I put a brand new headset in, same brand, and was riding yesterday. And I was definitely I felt really, really good on the bike and I was pushing the limits, got out of line and like hit a massive root that was in the trail that you don't ride over, and hit it and fully Tommy hawked off trail. And like, I definitely cratered myself. Like I had a massive goose egg on my shin and ended up kind of detonating my rear wheel. My left brake lever was pushed that far inboard. Like the lever, what angle didn't change. It was just pushed inboard on the handlebar.
Like on the clamp, it slid?
Yeah. And my headset exploded. Literally, like the cup part itself pushed in and separated from the flange, and the headset is all intact.
Like the
everything
same
was
thing
under.
again, you mean?
Yes,
And then but like the bearing is fine.
bearing is fine.
Wild.
The cup itself just like, and I don't even understand the physics of it. And I was with like some of the pink bike crew, like industry people, and they were all like, what the heck? And my head comes back to it being just the oversized thing. But I also have bikes that for years have had the dual 56 upper and lower. Never really had issues with those. But I do think that it has something to do with just the weight of the bike and the force, that I hit that particular thing. But it's still a very weird problem. Like it's not something you hear about very often.
No. Yeah. We'll get back to e-bikes, but that was one of the things on my list of like things that could improve in the future is I do still go through headset bearings just with like a normal tapered 1 1/8. Like, I don't really know, for whatever reason, they just, the whole setup, maybe it is a little fragile because they're maybe a touch too small, but they just seem a little susceptible to like getting water and stuff in there. Like I have bearings never seize or like stop moving, but just over time, like either it'll get a little corroded on the outside of the bearing where it sits in the cup, or the bearing just, it gets notchy as you turn. And that, yeah, like, I guess that goes back to like when I was mentioning frame bearings earlier, like if your bike's really good and the geo and kinematic is all sick, like maybe let's make the bearings everywhere just a little bit more durable would be nice.
Have you ever dove into bearing tech? itself and
Dude.
like the
Not
type of
super
bearing
heavy.
for certain applications?
Not like a little bit with some hub reviews I've done just to try to better understand it. And all it told me was that there's way more going on there than I realized, but it told me there was options. I was like,
Yeah.
so there could be a better way.
Yeah, totally. I'm no expert by any means, but I do know a little bit about so there's different types of bearings for different applications. There's like needle bearings versus ball bearings,
Yep.
and then the size of the ball bearing itself versus how many bearings there are inside the bearing,
In the races.
the bearing race and the whole thing itself. And there a lot of it differs in, is the thing under constant rotation, or does it have a certain range and degree of rotation? And I don't know which one is better or worse for certain types of application, but I think the bigger, obviously, the more surface area that you can have, the better, I think. And maybe there's a bearing expert on here that can shed some light, and I'm just kind of speculating at this point, but there are specific types of bearings, and that whole formula, there's a formula for it, basically, for that.
Yeah.
You can also, the pulling the waterproof covers out of the bearing, cleaning them out, like properly cleaning them with like brake clean or something, drying them out, and then actually there's a specific way to repack a bearing. I used to do that in when I was an automotive tech, like a method in how you repack a bearing, which is probably lesser known on the mountain bike side of general, like home mechanics, but you
Does
can
Does it
extend the
require
life of
special
it.
tools, or is it just like a actual way at which you pack it full bag of grease?
So my recollection on the automotive side was rebuilding manual locking 4x4 front hubs, and it's a whole system that you have to like disassemble, keep everything in order, and then you get down to the tapered needle bearing, basically, that the hub body sits on and your wheel rotates on, and you pull them out, and then you clean them out with like brake clean, or in the parts washer or whatever, and then you dry them out. And my boss was always like, don't ever like spin the bearing under air compression. Like, you want to dry it out with the air compressor, but you don't want to just let it go wee, because you'll smoke it, because there's no grease in there. And then you basically have rubber gloves on your hands, and like you like smear every rotation of the bearing until it, like, every surface of the inside of the bearing body itself is coated with grease. You're packing it, basically.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And I think, like, with a typical, you can do the same thing with a typical bicycle bearing, whether it be a headset bearing or a frame bearing. You pull those two, use a pick and very carefully pull those two little waterproof seals out.
Yeah.
Clean it out, get it as packed as you can, especially if you have the little, the grease gun.
Yep.
It's way easier, to squeegee it in there.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, just headset's such a gnarly zone for force and for movement. Like, all the things it has to do is take those impacts, but stay tight and still be smooth. Like, it's one of those bits on a bicycle that it seems like it's easy to overlook and think about what it does and be like, oh, I'll just get a cheap headset, throw it in there. Like, maybe a baller one really is worth it. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like, looking at where I want my bike to be, looking forward for durability, a huge one for me is like creaks and noises.
Yeah.
Like they just still happen. And I understand that that's sort of the nature of just having so many moving pieces, but I think it could be better. Like, when you're spending upwards of 10 grand these days on a bike, it sucks when, like, the third ride in, it can start making some noises, and then you're like, where is it coming from? And probably the same vein as just chain management. Like, there's a lot of focus on that right now, and for different reasons, but just bikes are quiet. Chain slap is way lower than it probably ever has been. And, but more standardized ways on full bikes you buy that manage your chain movement seems like something that would benefit your whole bike in the future. whether that's like O-chain or the hub devices or whatever that might be.
Yeah, the derailleur and clutch and chain, the tension management is an interesting thing, because you could have a device like a derailleur that is under so much tension your chain would not be bouncing at all, but then it's affecting your suspension performance.
Yeah.
Because it's under so much tension. I think it's just kind of one of those things you have to accept. But I'm also coming from the days of when I used a Shimano 105 road derailleur with a push-on grip cut out and zip tied around the body of the derailleur body, because it would clap on the underside of the chainstay.
Yep. Dude,
so good.
This summer during our downhill bike test, a lot of B tension plates on downhill drivetrains broke, and on the TRP one it broke on the frameworks, and we're like, we're not even going to try to go find a shop that's carrying TRP. That's going to be a lot harder to do. And we literally did that is we took like a bunch of like rubber masking kind of tape and put a bunch on the derailleur and a bunch on the other side of the chainstay, and then basically like zip tied like the derailleur to the frame, and it was silent and shifted fine for a whole week.
Wow,
I
in
was
Whistler.
like, yeah, in
So
Whistler.
you locked the derailleur
Just locked it in
basically.
place basically, and it worked fine. And I was like, "Hey, Nico, sorry, your derailleur's broken." Okay, I want to go back to e-bikes because I had some notes about durability, because I feel like e-bikes are the thing right now, right? And they're way more expensive. So it seems like you're going to care a lot more about it actually lasting a while. And maybe we could get a little bit into just, I don't know a whole lot about motors and how long they say they're supposed to last.
Yeah.
And I never personally ride a bike long enough to reach that limit. But just in the last month, I've had a few friends that have had motors go out. Blake on his fuel EX, I think it's a TQ. Is that TQ?
I think so.
He had the spindle snap, like his crank snapped off.
Whoa.
And like things like that. Mailman's here. Excuse my bark. But yeah, like you're talking more about durability, Spomer, from a standpoint of like how long should like things are under more load. But then I'm like, what about just the E aspect of them all lasting? Like it seems like we're in such a race for like the more power and the more range that a lot of people talk about like the fear of, dude, if I buy a new Bosch bike and in 3 years, they're like, we have the new latest, greatest motor. And like, what happens to your old one? That seems like an area that will get real spicy moving forward from like durability standpoint.
Yeah, I'm super curious as well, because I haven't had an e-bike stick around long enough. I was texting with Brad Howell the other day, and in 2020, I think we did our first e-bike test when Brandon came out here, and we had Grizz and Brad. Just thinking about those bikes, and I remember the Trek had a Bosch on it. It was the first time we'd seen the Bosch. I think everything else was Shimano, except we had a Levo SL too. So whatever that had in it, the first or second gen of those. But talking with him, I remember thinking, like, assuming those bikes still worked, they'd be more than fun right now. Just everything they were was great. They'd be more than fun. But would they be running 5 years later? Like, that's a great question. And I think there's been a little discussion on the forum. I feel like I always bring it back to that. But people have talked about longevity. What happens to the battery? Like, what kind of, even just the disposal of an old e-bike. And, I would hope if I'm spending 10, 12 grand, even 6 grand on an e-bike, that I'd get 5 years out of it, out of the motor system, like the motor and battery, without having to do anything major. But yeah, I'm really curious too. Like, do you have any insight, Lars, with, kind of the people around your neck of the woods?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is something that's getting flushed out and should be a huge goal for anybody involved in manufacturing or selling e-bikes with e-bike technology or systems, is the serviceability and the downstream after post-sales service. Like the whole bottom bracket part of a drive unit, like if that was just mandatorily serviceable. Like,
Mhm.
because if your bottom bracket bearings go out, which they do, you're kind of hosed right now.
Hmm.
I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm not aware of any drive unit manufacturer that open they're open to people cracking them open and having the ability to replace those parts.
Yeah.
But then also, yeah, there is like hardware, firmware, and then the actual mechanical aspect of it. You have something that's in a case and it's got to be waterproof, right? But then you have the bottom bracket part that can allow, the electronics, and then the bottom bracket part that can allow it to ingest, change the interior environment of the thing itself, which can introduce more wear. But I th- like, as far as like warranty and downstream support, that should be a big part of the checklist. Is like, you want people to be able to still use these bikes 5 years down the road,
Mhm.
and not have roadblocks in place to get something warranted. I mean, there are complications there with like people hacking them and making
Mhm.
them do things that they shouldn't be doing, but also from a, I don't know, like just a general reliability service standpoint, it would be sweet to see that being focused on a bit
Mhm.
more. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you know, like as a say like Bosch, if they've had a couple generations of motors, do the mounting points stay the same usually?
There is, currently, from my recollection, what they're doing now is using an approach called the constellation.
Mm.
And so between the CX, SX, and then maybe the more budget friendly drive unit option, all share the same mounting pattern, but it's not necessarily every bike that uses one of those systems can accommodate the different one, because the packaging of the drive unit size is different, right? Like an
Yeah.
SX drive unit is much narrower.
Yep.
The actual body casing is narrower than the CX. So you can't put a CX drive, even though the mounting pattern is the same, you can't put a CX
Mhm.
motor in an SX bike,
Mhm.
for example. But
Yeah.
I mean, that is an interesting point. Like, if that was just homogenized across every brand, that's cool. But I could see why there are there are brands that don't want to do, or maybe all of them that don't want to do that, because
Yeah.
like, or we're gonna sell this to this brand to be sold as a complete package, knowing that it can accommodate a
Mhm.
competitor's drive unit.
Mhm. Yeah, I think about it from if you had a bike in 2020 and it had a Bosch motor in it, and they come out with like the new one, and you want your bike to have the latest greatest, if it can just plug and play, that seems like a great way to just keep that bike living on.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, the universal mounting bracket is a interesting topic for sure. Like, I'm curious if
Mhm.
we'll ever get there. I think we'll talk about e-bikes on a different podcast soon, so
Yeah.
maybe we'll rain check that topic. But maybe back to your original question, Spomer, I would say for sure, like, drivetrain durability, or the focus on durability, seems higher the last couple years with e-bikes. I would say
Mhm.
brakes and like maybe more like rotor and brake pad discussion seems higher than it once was because of all of that. Like, brakes are
For
quite
sure.
powerful, but then rotors have definitely gotten bigger because of that. People are more uh, honed into just all of those kind of things. Yeah,
You
but
definitely wear brake
yeah,
pads quicker.
yeah,
That's for
for
sure.
sure. um,
But isn't it kind of crazy that, like, we're like, yes, you wear out brakes quicker, but it's because the bike's 20 pounds heavier.
mhm.
So
Mhm.
if you were 160 pounds back then and now 180 on your bike, like, isn't that when you wear brake pads out faster? Or is it because what you're having to slow down? You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
it's it's not that much weight in the grand scheme.
Mhm. That's a
Yeah, it's
good
kind of like the
point.
difference between sprung and unsprung mass,
Yeah.
to a
Mhm.
degree,
Yep.
almost. I think there's a bit of both. Like, using the e-bike as an analogy, think about trying to pedal an e-bike without the motor on,
Mhm.
and like a 45-pound e-bike, for example. But then think about if you had all that weight in a backpack.
Mm-hmm.
Is it
Yeah.
like it would probably feel different, like you're carrying the same load up the hill, but it has a different feel. And the sprung and unsprung mass is not
Yeah, I
an
know what you
actual
mean, though.
scientific
Yeah.
thing. But it's
Yeah.
so, and I think the same thing goes for downhill, like 160-pound person versus 180-pound person. The 180-pound person on any bike is not going to burn through brake pads at a more accelerated rate than the 160-pound person as much as they would e-bike versus non-e-bike.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For some reason. I don't know.
This is where we just
Some scientists out there can figure that
Yeah.
out.
That's not for this podcast.
Yeah.
That's the next one. We'll figure it out the next podcast. Yeah, this is where we just talk about how e-bikers just brake way more. So that's why they're burning through things, which like that is probably as much a factor as how much your bike system weight weighs, right? Like how do you brake?
Yeah.
Like what stage are you at in your abilities to brake correctly or not? But
I'm a terrible braker, by the way, self-admitted terrible braker. Like I only have a skid trigger. Like I'm still at this point in my lifetime of biking, I'm still trying to figure out how to moderate. I like have to consciously remind myself in situations like, don't lock it up. Don't lock it up. You can just
a little bit.
Dude,
Yeah,
are new
take the edge
brakes
off.
just the end of the world for you then? Like all the new powerful brakes?
Oh yeah. Like Mavens. Oh man. I just it's a challenge. And also the lever throw resistance for me is a massive challenge because like levers that have more resistance, you have to pull harder, which makes it way harder to modulate.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So a very light lever action, you don't have to like, which is what I tend to do. And like, I'm basically like full panic mode. Like anytime I'm braking, I'm like,
and then you start wearing out your tires more, going through
blowing up
pads.
headsets.
Yeah. You're just jabbing the front
losing
brake.
shoes.
Yeah. Really, it starts at the lever and then durability just falls off across the board.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Yep.
I did chuck in the notes, kind of like I went
Oh, yeah.
through my mental checklist of every component on a bike. Just, I thought it was maybe an interesting talking point of like differentiating. There's like the wear items, things that are just, they're going to wear out and there's no way to service them. And then the range of things that are going to wear out at a certain point, but their longevity can be extended by servicing them and maintenance. And then the like long-term things, because I think that's an important point, is somebody expecting something, it should last longer than it should, when really, in fact, it's like, it's not an engineered failure. It's just like, that's like a chain, for example, you could blow a chain up at any point, a brand new chain,
Totally. Yeah. That's a great point like you have to talk about durability and longevity of a bike and its parts very like vague because it's dependent on a lot of factors, right? If I picture 10 years from now, the bike I really want, it requires less service in general. Like that to me is like a perfect world. Like, I mean, my car is an example. I kind of just change the oil, rotate the tires. If the check engine light comes on, I bring it somewhere and get it checked out. But I don't have to do a lot, is I guess what I'm saying. It'd be really cool if on a mountain bike, you just were expected to do less at some point. And maybe that's living in La La Land. Like we're not going to be just ripping around on commuter bikes, but I mean, to your point, looking at your list, pretty much everything on your bike, it is sort of up to you to like determine how long and how well it lives for.
Yeah. I think there's no world in where you should do nothing to your bike and expect to for it to last a long time.
Maybe sort of on this topic, one of the questions I had was, like with with parts holding up a lot longer than they once did, your frame being probably the main one, and you're going to keep a bike for a long time. Where do you guys see it being worthwhile to spend money on parts from a durability point of view? Like if you're going to build up a bike and you're spending a lot of money on it, like where are you putting your focus and money towards for like the long run? Like I can run through what I wrote down for like
Yeah,
a
let's hear
build
it.
sort of
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with higher end suspension because I think you're going to get a lot more performance out of that. Your money's worth it. I'm going medium tier brakes, like depending on what your preference is, say like an XT or like the level of Mavens that give you the pad contact adjustment, but brakes that are good. So I want good suspension, good brakes. I'm going with a nice saddle. I think having a saddle that you know fits you is really important for just like riding your bike for a long time and it feeling good. I'm going with nice rubber on a front tire and more of a durable rubber in the rear, so it lasts a little bit longer. And then wheels that have a lifetime warranty. If you want to ball out and go carbon, you can. There's a lot of alloy wheels that are really good right now that also have a lifetime warranty. I think that is like, it has to have a lifetime warranty now. It's out there. You should do it. Drivetrain, I'm going like nicer cassette and kind of mid-tier chain and then cheap everything else.
Is a cassette just for weight?
Yeah, mostly
Yeah.
for weight. Yeah, I would say that's like the main reason. And
Yep.
it's
And probably
less
wears better.
susceptible. Yeah, like you can smash a derailleur off, you can bend a chain ring, you can bend cranks. A cassette kind of just lives forever if you replace your chain. I'm going cable dropper. I'm not going axis or wireless. Probably like a one-up dropper. Those have been really good for me. Alloy bars, because carbon bars snap. Flat pedals and those DD Def Trap ones, because they're plastic and they work well and they're like $60.
Yeah.
And then if I have money saved, I'm buying a Garmin watch. I think like, and this was kind of with the idea of you're just like you're going to go mountain biking and you want to like make all your money really worth it in the long run. I think if you're riding a lot, Garmin's all their like recovery aspects are really nice. Maybe if you don't even really care about like Strava or all that crap. Mid-tier or up helmet, like a helmet that's safe, but you don't maybe need the newest, nicest thing. I think there's like good mid-tier options. And then
So like a
personally,
ProTech?
yeah. Did you see ProTech's coming
The
back?
foam kind, the squishy ones.
Really?
Yes, ProTech is fully coming back. Yeah,
Sweet.
Todd Richards just posted that they got new snow helmets.
No
Yeah, they're
way.
not the like kayaking super malleable looking ones. I think they're actually safe now.
Like the JD
That's
helmet. The JD Swangan helmet.
Oh my God. Just cut the front of your
yeah.
full face off. That was the sickest. And then the last thing was like, I like wearing chamois. And so I say invest in nice chamois because it will make your ride experience better. But yeah, like to me, if that's my bike I'm building, which is sort of how my Stumpy was built up this year, like I've spent money where I'm going to get the most performance and it'll probably last a long time. And then the things that wear out, I'm less worried about because I don't have as much invested in it. And maybe like a chain stretch tool would be like the other thing if you don't have one, just to check your chain. I think chains last longer than maybe they feel like they once did. I don't know if that's true or not, but I don't really have to replace chains that often, it seems. Yeah. Anything to add?
All right. If you guys are buying wheels, are you buying carbon or aluminum? Like you're not in the industry at all.
I'm split because alloy wheels in general require more maintenance and love. They can. Like you just need to stay up on spoke tension, it seems. But that's not always true. And carbon wheels are really freaking expensive. So like I'm probably buying reserves or Crank Brothers or like those new Tenet wheels, like the alloy ones that have rim warranties. Probably what I'm going to lean towards and hope that I can just stay on top of it and like keep tension really high and straight.
Yeah, I would agree. And I'm in that boat right now. Like I've had a 2.9 wheel set and a 27.5 wheel set. And those two have kind of hybrided my personal bikes of dual 2.9 and mixed wheel for the last 7 years. And I've had a set of, I've had a set of race face carbon next R wheels. And the 29-inch wheel set still has the EWS stickers from North Star 2018 or 2019.
That is impressive.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
And I've never had to adjust the tension, literally hands off for that long.
Crazy. Yeah.
And I'm shedding a tear right now that this weekend, after I had my headset debacle, I was basically limping out, but we had quite a bit to descend still. And I was going down and I'm like thinking about the front end of my bike. And then I hear this horrendous thing coming from the back end of my bike. And I finally stop and look, and I had spokes stuck in my brake caliper. And they had pulled, like the nipples had pulled through the rim.
Oh
man.
no.
So I've got to find new wheels now, and I'm going to be very budget conscious, so I'm actually not sure. I will report back.
I bet Jason knows where you could get a test set.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh, he's locked out.
Oh no. I can still hear you guys.
Timing.
Oh, you're frozen
That's
now.
incredible.
We'll see if he comes back.
Yeah.
Is it just him? I'm still good. Yeah.
Nah.
Oh, that's crazy about the race face wheel.
Yeah, and but I love. They're probably stiffer than I would want, but they've been so bomb proof. And they're 30 mil wide inside. I mean, kind of ahead of the curve there. From 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Good weight, good, incredible durability. And yeah, so
Cool.
Did you guys have anything to add to what parts are worth spending money on these days from a durability standpoint?
Yeah, I do have
you.
kind of an addendum to that, Jason.
Mm-hmm.
In my head, I formulate it a little different. So
Okay.
if I were to be building out a bike like you were,
Mm-hmm.
I would approach it from the perspective of, if I kind of like how I would when I was racing BMX, like I would buy the cheapest bike that had the same frame as the most badass bike, and then just slowly upgrade parts over time.
Yeah.
So I would buy like probably an alloy like NX or SLX level bike with like stuff that ultimately I wouldn't want to ride. And then what's going to get upgraded first, which would be like suspension, contact points, tires for sure. Like pretty much right away. Good brakes, good suspension, good tires, grips, saddle. I'd have my own pedals because I ride clipless. And then the trickle down would go to like maybe drivetrain and probably land somewhere in the like GX, XT, or maybe even keep the SLX or, NX stuff on there. At that point, it would probably get to like weight and performance. Cassette's a really good one. An NX steel derailleur, like that's a lot of weight on the back of your bike.
Yep.
Or the, the like of the Shimano offerings. And I don't know, I would probably just, that it would be more of a workhorse approach than, and I'm in that. It's really neat to be in the position now where I'm like, okay, if I'm going to upgrade a bike right now, how am I going to do it? Like,
yeah, no, I like that approach for sure. And I've definitely pushed friends to do that as well. Like, you've decided on the bike you want. Here's the builds they offer. Clearly these upper two, nothing's going to need to be changed. You're going to be hyped from the day you buy it for probably the entire time you own the bike. It's a lot of money to put down up front. So maybe look at like at least getting in at a certain level for generally suspension is like the main one. And then everything else with time, you can kind of tweak here and there. Probably the one thing I left out that I just thought of is there's a lot of bikes out there, and I think there are a lot of great options. I like deciding on a bike by kind of like if you vibe with them. Like you're putting your money towards a brand. I think it's important to like buy into a brand that you align with for whatever reason's valuable to you. And then ideally you have like a local shop that carries them that you can interact with. And even if maybe that brand has different channels they sell the bike, and maybe you don't buy it through them, like you still go in there and interact with them. Like I think that is super valuable still.
For sure.
Yeah.
At the beginning, you mentioned the idea of whether or not brands want stuff to wear out. So we have to buy like kind of a life cycle thing. That'd be fascinating to know, because as we've talked about, it seems like all the people we know and interact with at companies, like they just want to make cool stuff. It
Mhm.
seems like they don't have ulterior motives of like, this is the sickest and it's only going to last 2 years. Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't seem like that. But
Gotcha.
maybe there is, like in some of the bigger companies, like they think about things like that.
There
So
has to be. That was what
seems
I
like it.
thought. Not from like a malicious way where they're like, oh, we're gonna make all this money off of people. But inevitably, if you're designing parts, I have to imagine, like if you take we're developing something new, you have to decide when you're gonna go to market with it.
Yeah.
It's never perfect. So like
Mhm.
with that sort of in mind, that means that things probably have to be designed to only be relevant for so long. And then probably depending on what the product is, there's probably an acceptable life expectancy that they assume consumers are cool with,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and
And then,
and there probably are things that like, maybe that is sort of a theme of this whole topic is like, there might be things that don't last as long as like we've just accepted as okay.
yeah, for sure. And it does seem like, I don't know if Lars, if you mentioned the whole trickle down thing, but
Mhm.
stuff that was XTR 10 years ago, that tech is now down into Dior. And so,
Mhm.
it seems like they kind of build that stuff in. And I would think that makes sense from a business standpoint too, because
Mhm.
of tooling or designs, or I don't know what the technical terms are, but
Mhm.
you don't want to just design something and have it be 100% obsolete in 2 years. So it doesn't seem like it'd be very cost effective.
Totally.
Yeah, and I think using that example, like XTR and then like a Dior level product, and I'm not saying this about Shimano specifically, but the there's not necessarily an engineered life expectancy, but as far as technology, a brand of any maker of anything, you have to create differentiation for the different price brackets, right? Like there's a reason for spending more money for the one thing. And like a chain, for example, they're intentionally not implementing the same level of technology with the lower level thing because there's not a lot of ways to differentiate it other than like weight,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
finish. So not having like Hyperglide or whatever, I don't know. Like there,
Yeah.
I think that has to be somewhat intentional just to create, you know, um, bracketing and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
differentiation.
Yeah, for sure.
No, totally. And it seems, yeah, drivetrains and brakes seem like easy ones to kind of look at those tiers of, and like in a product family.
Mhm.
And those are ones where, to me, a lot of it's just weight, really, at the end of the day. I mean, you look at transmission, it's the same shifting tech from the mechanical version all the way up to whatever XX, XX1, whatever the
Mhm.
peak one is. Uh, a lot of it's just weight at the end of the day. And
Totally.
maybe some perceived durability in finishes, but I've never had the opportunity to like put low end versus high end and actually run them for like 2 years to see if that's true.
Sure.
So it's kind of a mute point, like um, moot point. But yeah.
Or brakes, for example, like a mid level or a lower level versus a higher level brake. A lot of times, the only difference is the amount of just adjustment that you
Hmm.
have
Yeah.
available.
Hmm.
It's architecturally, it's the same product, just less adjustment. But that's like kind of important,
Totally.
like
Yeah.
to be able to on the fly adjust it and just fine tune it so it's just right. Because that's such a like if my brakes are not working the way if they're not in the position and actuating the way that I want them to,
Hmm.
um, like I almost can't ride.
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
that's a must have.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. I would say too with brakes, like bushing versus bearing in the pivot can be a
Hmm.
big one for me, especially in time. Like a bushing just kind of develops more play.
Yep.
But to what you're talking about, just, I built up that Intense Spider to test, and it's the first bike I've ridden with Motives, SRAM's new brake, and there's no adjustment other than reach, and my front is biting nice and tight, and my rear is a little bit later, and I'm like, there's nothing I can do about it, like
Yeah.
the rotor in the rear is
Other than like cheat the pads out
well, and
or
it's already rubbing in the rear, so I'm like, there's really nothing I can do about it. Like,
yeah.
but yeah, yeah, I know. And I've had a few friends I've been helping get new bikes in the last couple months that are newer to riding, and little things like that. There is a lot to learn. Like, it makes it
Hmm.
so hard to figure out because I mean, you're just immune to like, well, if I spend more money, it's nicer. And I'm like, well, like, sure, in theory, like, kind of.
In what way?
Exactly. In a
Yeah.
way that matters, maybe not. Like you might
Mhm.
not. You can always like aspire to get those nicer products, but at the end of the day, especially if you know what you're going for from like a ride experience, probably don't need it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, dude, the cheap bike tests, whenever we do those are
Mhm.
the most enlightening because of
Totally.
how much things vary from
Mhm.
part to part or based on cost and stuff. So
Yeah. Well, and those are always really eye opening for me to be like, oh, even the lowest end of things are near the bottom, pretty good.
super fun
Like
still, yeah.
yeah, like it kind of goes back to what like Lars's approach to if he was building a bike, like you can get in entry level, and even nowadays, like the tires probably actually aren't that bad. Like you're gonna be okay with
Mhm.
like the tires, and there might be some real obvious on the nose, like I need to change this in the first 6 months. But that first 6 months, you're still gonna be riding and it'll be okay. It's not gonna be horrible. Like that is a huge eye opener for me. Every time I ride, like a Halo product, and it's 15 grand. And I'm like, this thing doesn't ride like 15 grand. Like, I'm sorry. Like, it just
Mhm.
isn't
Yeah.
as perfect.
Justifiable.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, super not justifiable. And it's not a huge jump from the mid tier we're kind of talking about, where like,
Mhm.
again, the difference between those chains really ain't that much, and like all those little things, sure, they might add up to like 2 pounds, but it's not that big of a difference when you go out riding. So,
Yeah.
um, sweet.
Something I've done over the years by happenstance that I always use as kind of like a baseline to keep myself in check, because I'm always like, my bike has to operate exactly how I want it for me to be able to ride properly. Every once in a while, I'll have an opportunity where I'm not intending to ride, but I hop on somebody else's bike or some random bike or to do a goofy thing or whatever, like at a barbecue at somebody's house, and they're like, "Could you wall ride that?" or whatever. And I still end up being able to do a ridiculous thing
Hmm.
on this clapped out foreign
Yeah.
bike. And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, they're all bikes.
Yeah.
It's all about your attitude,
For sure.
Yep.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that sums up most of my ideas on this topic.
Yeah.
Oh, it was good.
We talked about it last time, and we'll do it sooner than not, maybe once we get a few of these in the books, but starting a forum to discuss ideas pre-show and then what we talk about now post-show.
I think that's sweet.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure,
Engagement
yes.
with people, I think, is really cool.
Yeah. Because, we only can have so much experience with the things we touch, and then people out there and the bikes they ride, especially because we're not the average consumer, probably have a lot cooler and more detailed experiences with things. So,
For sure.
sick.
And we ended up on the same conclusion as last time, where you said, basically, what did you say, Jason? Like, it's cheaper to get lessons than to buy the new expensive fork or whatever. It's kind of the same thing.
Just called everybody out. Yeah. Yeah. Go buy the 2000 mountain bike and then pay somebody to help you set it up and ride it better. That's definitely a key. No, yeah, that is a good summary. And one like this is, I'm like, bikes are really good right now. And if
Mhm.
you're fortunate enough to like be able to afford a slightly modern one, even if it's got not the best parts, they're probably going to feel better and last a lot longer than a bike 10 years ago. So
Yeah.
it is a good spot to be in.